My next guest had me scared right down to my socks in a particular Rose Bowl back in the day, taking on my Wolverines for Washington State. He's the host of Pac-12 This Morning every single day on channel channel 373 on Sirius XM radio between the hours of 7 and 10 Pacific in the morning. So that's 10 to 1 in the afternoon Eastern time. Fox Sports 1 college football analyst. He is Ryan Leaf. Good to see you, sir.
You too. Thanks for having me.
First things first, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm busy. I'm a dad of a 9-month-old today.
So it's a birthday of your son?
Yeah, my son, MacGyver.
What's his name? MacGyver?
Yeah.
MacGyver Leaf?
Yep.
Is that named after?
That's
no,
amazing.
It was, yeah. my wife-to-be, Anna, actually picked it out. We spell it differently. We spell it McGyver.
Okay.
And it just, at first everybody's kind of like, really? And then they're like, oh, okay. And then people really seem to like it, and it fits him. He's
getting out of jams?
He's getting out of jams. Yeah, he's
bubble gum and a hockey ticket.
All of a sudden, wait a minute, he was in the crib, and now, damn it, he's on the roof. He's on the, what the heck?
Well,
okay.
he's 2.5 feet tall already.
Come on.
Yeah, he was 2 feet at birth. So, well, Anna's a former volleyball player. She's 6'1". So
and you're 6'6".
Yeah.
Wow.
In the jeans, man.
Yeah.
Has he already committed to? Does he have any SEC?
Coach Saban. Last time I was down there, Coach Saban put in wanted a verbal, but we weren't ready.
Not ready yet.
Not ready yet.
Keep your options open.
Coach
right?
Harbaugh. Jim taught me really how to play professional football. He was my backup in San Diego.
Was he really?
Yeah. So he was really close friend of mine, and he pretty much taught me how to be a professional after that first year where I struggled so much. He taught me how to go about doing it.
What did he teach you about?
Well, he taught me about how to be competitive. I thought I was always competitive, and then I came up across a guy who was in the last pretty much 2 years of his NFL career, and we went at it. And then when I won the job, he relinquished that and looked at me and came into the quarterback room every week, just there to help me, try to make me better so we could win as a team. He wanted to win regardless. He didn't care if he was a starting quarterback or not, and I think that's what makes him such a great coach. His ability to coach every single one of his kids to try to be the best and who can contribute each week.
So what about teaching you how to be a professional in terms of being ready for situations, dealing with the media? Did he talk to you about that too?
Yeah, he helped me a lot. If you see really from like what that rookie year looked like to year 3 after I hurt my wrist and I wasn't as physically capable of playing, the demeanor of how I was in Tampa and Dallas and how I treated the media, and it was a different kind of person. I just wasn't physically talented enough to compete at that level, which is, something I wish I would have learned earlier, of course. But, I mean, he's helped me now down the line later in life, in this type of life now, to be more accountable for my actions and things of that nature. He was a big part of what my early life was like.
Jim Harbaugh, huh?
Yep.
Ryan Leaf here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's get into some what you're up to and what's been going on and some headlines to get your thoughts. I want to talk about Tyler Hilinski with you as a Washington State quarterback. We all know what happened to Tyler, and those who don't, 21-year-old young man taking his own life with an AR-15 out of the blue. I mean, just out of the complete blue to all of the people who knew him and loved him. And then the Mayo Clinic checking him out to say that he had early stages of CTE in his brain. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, the first thought that comes to me is the end the stigma mantra that we need to continue with. We have the stigma of what mental health is in this country is one of weakness. When we see it on the platform where people are actually talking about it, we think, oh, that must be changing. But really in culture, it's not. It's seen as a weakness. We don't stand up as strong football players and say we're struggling with something. Or we don't see on movies or in the past that the valedictorian or the most popular kid in the school or the star quarterback is not standing in front of a group of his peers saying, hey, everybody, I'm struggling with this. Otherwise, I would have been that guy in San Diego, right? I would have stood up in front of my team and say, guys, I need your help. I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. I'm trying to be your leader. Instead, I am just a mess, and I get backed into a corner, and I figure my only way out is to fight. Luckily for me, at that time, I didn't have those suicidal thoughts. I got to that place,
When?
About 7 years ago, at the height of my substance abuse and just the, no mental health treatment. I was self-medicating. That's all the substance was for me. And I was at that place. So when that night that it happened and I read about it, my first instinct was anger because I was just at the Holiday Bowl. I just sat down at breakfast with those quarterbacks.
With Tyler?
And he knew what I had gone through, and yet he still didn't feel comfortable enough to, because I was right there. I'd have been a guy that could have related to him. So that was what I was most angry about. I was also kind of resentful of myself that I hadn't reached out to Washington State sooner, where I said, let me come. I don't care, what our past looks like. If I was standing in that room telling that group of men my story and talking about how it's okay, it's not a weakness, but actually the strongest thing you'll ever do is to be vulnerable and show that side of you. Maybe we're not sitting here with this now. It makes more sense now because of the diagnoses. And it kind of reaffirms something that I've been feeling and thinking for a long time. There's a lot of us probably who have played, whether it's in high school, college. There's just not enough data out there right now because we've studied all the brains of the NFL players who have died. Mm-hmm. But what happens when we test somebody's brain who's died at 30 or 40 years old of mental health issues? How much football did he play, or how much head trauma did he have? So I believe that there's a lot of us, including me, that are living with some form of CTE right now. The difference is that I think the substance abuse part for me made me address it and seek treatment and find positive alternatives to what these symptoms look like, because we can't diagnose this until postmortem. But we do know what the symptoms look like now, and there are healthy alternatives to try to. The biggest reason is most people who have dealt with this issue, their answer was to take their own life instead of finding a healthy alternative and what that may look like. And that's where we're at right now. And hopefully with this diagnosis, and I really think this is going to be a watershed moment when a 21-year-old is diagnosed with that postmortem, that there's an issue. And it's not just the NFL, but finding safer ways to play football. In particular, what Brett Favre's been saying lately about removing the contact before you're at least 12. Anna and I have made the deal where MacGyver can't wear a helmet until he's 15. And then we're going to give him all the information. And who knows what 15 years from now this will look like.
Sure.
But that's going to be our deal. We're not going to let him wear a helmet until he's 15. And then we're going to give him all the information we can and let him make that choice.
Ryan Leaf here on the Rich Eisen Show. And what's the work you've been doing with Glazer and with Jay Glazer, our buddy?
Yeah.
The MVP program. And what have you been up to?
This is a good story, and I don't know if Jay probably likes this version of it, but it was really Nate Boyer. Nate Boyer is the co-founder of MVP with Jay, because Nate was dealing with a lot of his transition, but a lot of his buddies in the military, and Jay was dealing with a lot of his buddies who were retiring from the NFL. And they were noticing something. There was a correlation between the transition and how
to civilian life, if you will, certainly for the NFL, right?
Right. The idea of both combat veterans and former players think we'll never do anything as important again. We don't, and we need to find a purpose or repurpose. And he brought us together, is what happened. So I was watching what Nate was doing with Colin Kaepernick, and I really thought that was open-minded and forward-thinking, and I wanted to know more. So I reached out to him via Twitter, and he, sure enough, reached back out. We went and had breakfast, and he says, I'm part of this program. Would love for you to come in and be a part of it, maybe speak to the veterans. And I remember he walked in and talked to Jay. He's like, I had breakfast with Ryan Leaf this morning. I want him to come in. And Jay's like, no, don't bring him in here. Jay and I haven't seen each other for years and years and years. This is just the caricature of me, right? When you said my name, 4 years ago, that would have probably been most people's answer.
Sure.
No, keep that guy away from us as far away as this.
Bad news.
And Nate looked at him and said, Jay, you don't get to decide who we save. And
I'm sure that hit Jay right in the gut.
It did.
In the heart.
Then I showed up, and I just do what I do now, and I just speak honestly, and I looked every one of those veterans in the eyes and told them, I'm just like you. I'm just a flawed human being trying to be better that happened to do something what people thought was important at one time. And Jay was, dumbfounded by it. And since that moment, Jay has been probably the biggest supporter of mine when it comes to my health, but also my career. He knew what I wanted to do. This is what I went to college for, but the last place I wanted to be was in a newsroom after I retired. I mean, the media and I were like oil and water, right?
Sure.
So that's the last place I wanted to be, and what he's been able to accomplish for me because of a program he started and what I've been able to do, vice versa, to help vets and the vets to help me. So it's been pretty phenomenal.
I love that guy. Glaze has just got a huge heart.
Huge heart.
But you understand why he had that reaction when he first
of course
heard your name, right?
And it doesn't surprise me when somebody has that reaction. Even now, after what we've been doing for the last 3 years since I've got out of prison, it still doesn't surprise me. And it may be warranted, and I don't take it personally. I don't, because, I mean, I believed it for so long. When people such as in your ilk would talk about me, I started to believe it and go, that's who I am. I'm just going to disappear and go away. And we need people like Nate Boyer to grab you up and say, you know what, we don't get to decide who we save. We just do it. We be part of the solution.
Yeah, the MVP program is it's awesome what they're doing up there with Unbreakable. I got to meet a couple of the vets who are behind that program.
You met AJ in Denver, and those two.
I did.
Yeah,
they're great. I mean, they're just it's great what he's doing, and I'm thrilled at what's going on in your life these days. I want to come back in 60 seconds and take a break. We're gonna hit this letter that Chris Brockman doesn't know anything about yet.
Haven't
Neither
read.
does Mike.
Have no idea.
This letter that you sent to me via direct message 2 days ago. It's an instant classic.
Well, you weren't expecting that at all. You were just
Nobody's expecting this. That's in 60 seconds with Ryan Leaf on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, we're back in studio with Ryan Leaf, who I follow on Twitter. You and I follow each other on Twitter, and it's been great getting back in touch with you, Ryan. It really has. At Ryan D. Leaf on Twitter. Okay, so now we were chatting about when we can have you back in studio here on the show. Chris Brockman, Ryan Leaf, sends me a letter via direct message. Don't put it up just yet. You sent it to me, and I'm like, what the hell is this? There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this real? You're like, I think it's real. This is a letter that has come into Ryan's possession. We'll get into that in a second as to how it has. Written in March of 1998, to Colts owner Jim Irsay, who at the time, a month away in the draft, the decision between you and Peyton Manning.
Right.
Correct? Put the letter up. It's from Hunter S. Thompson.
Oh, okay.
The brilliant Hunter S. Thompson.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Fear and Loathing himself.
Dear James.
Dear James. Okay, March 14th, 1998. Dear James, in response to your addled request for a quick $30 million loan to secure the services of the Manning kid, I have to say no at this time. But the Leaf boy is another matter. He looks strong and Manning doesn't, or at least not strong enough to handle that welcome to the NFL business for 2 years without a world-class offensive line. How are you fixed at left OT for the next few years, James? Think about it. You don't want a China doll back there when that freak sap comes crashing in. Wow. Okay, let me know if you need some money for Leaf. I expect to be very rich when this Depp movie comes out. Your faithful consultant, Hunter, and it's signed HST, with at the bottom scrawled in handwriting, CC John Walsh, ESPN, and CC Colonel Depp. Now, John Walsh of ESPN is the godfather of SportsCenter, who I've known for 20-some-odd years, and was Hunter S. Thompson's former editor at Rolling Stone. And he knows Hunter S. Thompson for years. So, Ryan, I say, is this real? And now you said, how did you come into possession of this letter?
So, I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, and they were in town last week, and I was sitting there behind the dugout, and a guy
in L.A.
here in L.A., and a guy tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Are you Ryan? Are you Ryan Leaf?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Man, I'm just such a fan of what you're doing now with the foundation and everything like that." And we talked for a little bit. And he's like, "Have you ever seen the Hunter S. Thompson letter?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "I grew up around the corner from Jimmy Irsay, and I was in Tokyo opening up DirecTV Japan at the DirecTV Japan, and I got this letter. Would you like to see it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course." I mean, I didn't believe it for a second, right? And there it came in the email, and I showed it to my fiance, who's a huge Hunter S. Thompson fan, and we read it, and the absurdity of the fact that A, Hunter S. Thompson knew who I was, and B, that he was trying to persuade Mr. Irsay to draft me instead was just comical, and not to see it for 20 years. How does it's just nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be found.
Right.
It's and so you're like, let's talk about it. I'm like, well, I just got to see if it's real first. So I Googled Hunter S. Thompson's signature. Looks just like it. It's the HST. And then I'm like, why in the hell am I not just calling John Walsh, who I've known forever? I called John Walsh of ESPN, and I spoke with him this morning after texting with him over the July 4th holiday, because you sent this to me just a couple days ago. And he says, because he's known Hunter and his family's known Hunter S. for years, he said his wife was like, why are they thinking it's not real? And as a matter of fact, it's 1,000% real.
Wow.
It's 1,000% real. And he told me how Irsay hooked up with Hunter S. Thompson to begin with, is that Irsay bought in auction an original copy of On the Road by Jack Kerouac and wanted it verified as real and reached out to Hunter S. Thompson to verify it. And the two of them hit it off. And Hunter S. Thompson was a huge NFL fan who, interestingly enough, loved Al Davis and obviously had an opinion on the 1998 draft.
Well, I think now that we know that a lot of people had an opinion on the 1998 NFL draft.
Yes.
This one in particular, I'm still like speechless to the fact that, because this was an opinion of a lot of people's, though, in 98. People like to say that it wasn't now in hindsight, but this was an opinion of a lot of people's. But that to come from him, and then just the whole process, the fact that we were coming on the show, I could pass it along to you. You could actually get it confirmed with John Walsh at ESPN. And,
he did.
Yeah.
He confirmed it.
Yeah.
To me this very morning. And he goes, the Colonel Depp is Johnny Depp. I'm like, yes, John, yes. I got that.
Thank you.
Figured that one out. Now, my question is Johnny Depp familiar with the NFL?
Well, the latest Rolling Stone, copy of Rolling Stone, says he's not familiar with much in reality right now. Yeah.
Because I'm informed with the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, so,
it's interesting.
This is amazing.
Isn't that amazing? I love that line, is that you don't want a China doll back there when that freak sap comes crashing in.
The irony of all this, right? The irony of this, he would go on and start the most consecutive games of anybody, and I would be injured going into year 2 and miss the entire season. So we're just reminding people.
Strong underlined.
Yes, strong underlined.
Although Jim Morris Sr. told me that they were grinding tape on the two of you up until the very day of the draft.
Yeah, and we were pretty adamant. I hadn't made it a mandate to Lee Steinberg to say no. I didn't want to go to Indianapolis, but in my opinion, I was like, I had family on the West Coast. I played on the West Coast. San Diego, June Jones was going to be my quarterback coach. Kevin Gilbride was going to be my head coach. Beach, money, babes. I mean, that was the life for me. And I wasn't thinking about, do I have Marshall Faulk in the backfield? Do I have Marvin Harrison out on the side? I was not in the right mindset to be an NFL quarterback at the time.
Well, I was told, and I will say this to you here, that they asked the same question of you and Peyton Manning prior to the draft. What's the first thing you do if you get the playbook? This is what I was told. Manning said, I'm going to get in it right away and learn it. And you said, first thing when I'm drafted, I'm going to go to Vegas with my buddies. Is that a true story?
Well, I went with the Spanoses, so I don't know if it was necessarily they flew me there and dropped me off and hung out. So, but I doubt that's what I said.
Okay.
I probably wasn't asked. I've heard a lot of what Bill Polian has said via that draft. I don't know necessarily if a lot of it was true. It sounds like something I might say back then.
Okay.
But I don't believe that was something I actually said. I probably would have tried to. I was telling people what they wanted to hear. If they asked me that question, I would have said, "Oh, I'll be on it on the private jet heading back to the facility."
Okay, right.
That's what I would have said.
But if you went to Vegas, clearly that's why Hunter S. Thompson loved you.
Probably.
That's what. No fear and loathing there. I mean, this is, to me, this letter, Ryan, is a piece of Americana from one of the most incredible sports drafts that we have seen. I mean, I was so blown away when you sent me this.
I talked to, Andrew Perloff.
Yes.
I know Andrew really well. He's on vacation out here right now.
Oh, great. I'm so glad he
not
let
in
us
LA.
know he's out here.
Not in LA. He's in San Francisco with his wife. But I sent this to him, and he was like, dude, that's going to make that's going to make some news. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's just,
well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But Dan and his crew have another piece of memorabilia, of course, in their man cave. It's the jersey that Indianapolis had prepared that night, my 16 Leaf Colts jersey that hangs in their man cave. So, yeah, you're probably right. There was a lot. I mean, if they had a jersey made, then it was ready to go down either way. But
man, Hey, look,
Need to be a part of it. I can look now that I know what's important in life. I can look back at something like this and just be like, how cool is this?
right. Yeah, we're looking at you autographed it. We're looking at our sister show, Dan Patrick. There it is in the man cave. Hey, Ryan, it's great to see you. Let's get you back here in just a couple of weeks, and we'll talk Pac-12 football. Okay,
I'd love
we'll
to.
Get in. We'll get ready for this season.
Pac-12 Media Days, July 25th.
Okay.
I'll be there doing the show from there and talking with all the guys and getting ready. In fact, I get to call a few games for the Pac-12 this year.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. So let's talk college football. Let's just go deep into sports and what you're doing. Pac-12 this morning, channel 373 on Sirius XM radio every single day, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time, 7 to 10 Pacific time. And then for MVP, let's get this out there, vetsandplayers.org for emerging vets and players, what you're doing with Glaze and Nate Boyer. Good to see you, Ryan.
You too.
You got it.
Thanks.
At Ryan D. Leaf, Hunter S. Thompson's #1 draft choice here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.